Right.
Hello, and welcome back for another bit of BITREP goodness. So in this game, we've got myself, Lukas, the orc, playing orcs. I've never played anything else. I don't want to hear any shit from anyone. And we've got Nic playing Votann.
Yep. The Leagues of Votann. Notorious indeed. So this game here is actually a little bit of an experiment. Lukas is testing out a rather different orc list, and we were kind of just testing to see not only if it could beat it, but also thinking a little bit about teams play, like if it could, like how much it could score against Votann. For those unfamiliar with teams, you are scored based off of like a differential. So even if you lose a game, if it's like maybe a 5 or 10 point game, that's very good for your team. And Votann are like a big bully army. So we're trying to see if orcs could maybe deny some points, if not outright beat them. Yeah. Lukas, you want to go over your list right here? We're going through my first turn here. I ended up going first, but I think Lukas should explain what his list is doing because it'll kind of determines the tempo of the rest of the game.
Yeah, you'll notice that a lot of my guys are hiding, and the reason for that is because I'm not playing Goths. I am playing Deathskulls. So I've got Deathskulls, Battalion Patrol. For those unfamiliar, Deathskulls have OPSEC on all their infantry, and also a 5 Feel No Pain against mortals. They're a lot more resilient than other orcs are, and they're also great at playing the points. We got a Warboss and Mega Armor with -1 to wound to crushing armor. We got a Weirdboy, 30 Gretchen, 30 Kommandos, 10 Nobz with Power Claws. This was an experiment I was trying out specifically for the Votann matchup because they are theoretically very good at killing something like a land fortress if they ever get a clean charge on it. 2 squads of Tankbustas, 2 squads of 10 Stormboyz, 2 battle wagons, 5 Lootas, a truck. And then in our patrol, we've got a Warboss. He's a trucker boss with brutal but cunning, kill a Klaw, 10 Gretchen, 10 Stormboyz, and 5 Tankbustas. So a whole lot of MSU, objective stealing, and mission play. The idea here is that orcs can play a similar game to how Necrons currently play, where they just kind of run out and throw away their whole army in exchange for a boatload of points. For those unfamiliar, orcs have a trio of very powerful secondaries: Green Tide, Get the Good Bits, and Biggest and the Best, which more or less amounts to sit on the 2 or 3 objectives on your side of the board, and you can get at least 35 to 40 points if your opponent doesn't bother you. And so we're going to be seeing how that works out this game. Yeah. What are you playing today, Nic?
Yeah, so I'm playing Leagues of Votann, the YMYR Conglomerate. That is the sub-faction that gives everything a 5 Benvuln. And if you have a 2-up armor stave, it gives you a 4 Benvuln, which these Hecatonks do have. It also gives +4 inch range, additional AP within half range of things with Judgment, and access to a nice mortal wound stratagem. It's a very simple, like, double wagon, 15 Zerks, 30 troops, 2 bikes, Kahl, Grimnyr, Forge Master list that I played at Slaanesh and also played at Atomic City Warzone. So, kind of going over here, game plan-wise, we are playing a WTC layout. That is why the terrain is set up in this way. And I believe we were playing Bomber Mission, the priority, or tear down their icons.
Yep.
I know that Lukas can score a lot of points passively. Get the Good Bits is very strong secondary for that. Green Tide, if he stands on his side of the board, is a 10. And Biggest into Best, his Megaboss could stand on this objective down here and probably just score a 10 on it. So I get the first turn roll off, and I know that I need to hit the gas. If anyone is confused, these crates stacked here are actually a 1-story ruin. We just don't have enough WTC terrain to make a full WTC board. So that is why my tank is touching it, because it unlocks that piece of terrain. So my game plan here is to rush right at him, and my secondaries kind of reflect that. I ended up going for no prisoners because Lukas's list gives up like 17 on it. Is that true?
I don't know what the number is, but at least 15.
At least 15. I also took lay claim. That is why, and I apologize for the confusion, that is why these extra objective markers are here. These are representing my lay claim objectives. So at the end of the game, I get 5 points for each one of these I hold. So I'm basically projecting to Lukas that I aim to table him and to do so quickly. My last secondary was Warp Ritual. I thought about Mental Interrogation, but I have a little bit of a bad experience taking Mental into an army that could put characters in transports. So I was worried that Lukas would do the same to try to deny me points, because that's kind of what you do in teams. You can try to deny points from people's secondaries. That was a little bit of a mistake, because he probably has to have his War Boss down here to score his one secondary. But I opted for Warp Ritual instead, because I figured I could lock down the middle by hopefully turn 3, and then just do it on turn 3, 4, and 5. What about you, Lukas? What did you opt for, secondary-wise?
I took the biggest and the best, and Green Tide, and got the good bits. This was kind of the first test with Green Necrons, and so I wanted to do the thing that it's meant to do, which is, just try to score its points with its faction secondaries. So I figured I would see how well I do on these, and yeah. Going first is definitely not what you want for any of those, because Nic is going to put his whole army in the middle and then prevent me from scoring a whole lot of those things by just killing me. So I'm going to have to get kind of creative to get a lot of those points, but yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yep.
I think in this game, you don't have anything in reserve. You've got some of your Berserker guys in the transports. I think I put 10 Stormboyz in reserve in this game.
Yeah.
So I do have a little bit of extra gas that's going to be coming down in Nic's backfield.
We got, oh god, I can't draw a 0. We got 10 Zerks in that wagon, and we got 5 in this wagon. So this one down here is a lot scarier for Lukas to have to deal with. The reason why I put 10 down here is because I know that this objective here is probably his biggest and best objective, because his War Boss is inside of this battle wagon here. So I'm basically projecting to him that if he doesn't come deal with this land train right now, I'm just barfing out 10 Zerks on this objective, and he's never getting him. Turn 1 here, I opted for a very aggressive play. Like I said, I deployed this tank down here because I realized that if this tank goes first, it could shoot into this truck here, which shooting truck boys is very strong, because they're... Well, Lukas, you want to explain what their ability is?
Yeah, so Truckboyz is a specialist mob that orcs can take, 1 per detachment, that allows them, after a truck makes a normal move, to disembark, and then they can still, there's no rider on that, they can still move, they can still advance, they can still charge, they can still shoot, they can do basically anything. So, yeah.
What's their total threat range?
Well, it depends what the advance roll is, but they move 12, get out 3, move 5, so that's a minimum 20 inches, and then they roll a die for their advance, so that's a maximum of 26, and then they charge 2d6 with a reroll, so a max of 38 inches directly forward if they don't have to go around terrain or anything like that.
Yeah, so I wanted to remove that asset from the board as quickly as possible, especially with how close my army is. What I'm really worried about is Lukas doing something like advancing and charging, right? Punching these bikes and then like wrapping this land train, or even worse, charging the land train, rolling hot, and killing it.
Yeah. Having now seen the kind of angles you could get turn 1, it was definitely a mistake to deploy that truck. I should have swapped it and the silver battle wagon that was over there, because I don't think your land train kills a whole battle wagon through 2 forests, whereas it could definitely kill a truck for sure. Yeah,
probably not. The battle wagons are a lot tankier, and Ramshackle actually comes into effect here. Ramshackle being the rule that if a weapon is under strength 8, it reduces damage by 1. And a lot of Votann weapons are strength 7 damage too, at least shooting wise. So it won't affect the big beam. The big beam is strength 8, 4 damage. But I mean, sometimes those don't go through. And it's also only AP3, so you get a 6-up save against it.
Yep. So yeah, because if that truck is back there, I mean, it would have to go like around the building, but I think I could probably honestly still get to if it just crammed up into the building and dumped the guys out, I'm pretty sure I could get to that land train that's in the middle of the board right now. One of those would be really big.
Yeah. These things too, something I often like to do with my bikes, I like to send one squad aggressively forward. I'm using the wrong color. I like to send one squad aggressively forward because the bikes have a stratagem, as long as they have a searchlight, called Light 'em Up, which after hitting an enemy unit with an attack, they can spend a CP to give it a judgment token, which is very strong because they do something like this, hit the truck that I'm trying to shoot at, and then the tank down here gets to spend the 1 CP strat to reroll hits against a judge target and like guarantee killing that thing turn 1. So Lucas, you want to describe your clapback here? I'm on an objective up here. I am not on this objective, but I cleared everything out over here, and I have a tank and some guys in the middle. What is your game plan going into this?
I'm going to, so in the upper left where those Hearthkin are, I'm going to see if my 10 Stormboyz can win against your 10 dudes. There's that. And then obviously I'm trying to get rid of your fast stuff. So I'm going to kill these bikers that are right in front of me. And then hopefully also tag your wagons because I want those shooting at things that I want them to shoot at things that I tell them to shoot at rather than whatever they want to. Because if they shoot whatever they want to, it's very often that they will get to zap like multiple targets. And that's really not good.
So that's what's happening down here with the Stormboyz.
Yep.
So their goal here is to hopefully charge this thing and then wrap it completely so that the Zerks inside can't even disembark.
Yep. So yeah, there's definitely a difference between a tag and a wrap. What I'm going for here, and I did forget to get the 10 Kommandos out of that wagon, which I'm going to be doing in a second because they're pretty important to my plan. There's a difference between a tag and a wrap, right? If your goal is to shut down a shooting unit, it is sufficient to go for a tag. If your goal is to prevent something to get out of the transport, and then like a secondary goal is to shut down the transport shooting, then you have to go for what's called a wrap, where you physically bubble out around the transport such that the unit can't disembark outside of 1 inch of enemy models, but wholly within 3 of the transport. And we could see here that not only does the edge of the board do a lot for me there in this plan to wrap the Hecaton, but also the ruin itself is being very helpful because Nic can't obviously have his dudes land inside the walls. So it's not a legal position for them. So if I just kind of like loosely bubble around with my Stormboyz and Kommandos, then that unit should be, those Berserkers should be stuck there for a while.
And that was a big reason why turn 1, I think some people might have noticed, it was my Hecaton was originally up against the like side of the board here, and it was just touching like right here. And I opted instead, wait a minute, I should just put it here so that I at least, like if Lukas can't wrap all the way around here, my guys can still disembark. So this makes it a lot harder for him.
Yeah, I would have been able to wrap that thing with only 10 Stormboyz if you had like put it up against the side of the whole thing.
So if you're playing transports into a melee army, keep in mind where the edges are. If you're giving your opponent like basically a free edge of your thing to be wrapped, now they only really need to commit 1 unit. And right here, I'm basically forcing Lukas to commit his Kommandos, which are going to appear there in a second, and his Stormboyz. And if these Kommandos up here don't roll hot on their advance, right, they're going to end up being like, right there instead of right here. So we'll see what happens in a second. So CP wise, how is CP for your list?
It's an orc list, so it is 0 because we have no good stratagems.
Like it starts with 0? Or how CP is not good for you? It's
straight up starts with 0, and the stratagems I use are like re-rolling advances, fighting on death, auto passing. Like I honestly can't think of anything else.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at here. Is like you re-rolling this commando advance is not like an unprecedented thing.
Certainly not. No. All I'm really doing here. Everyone keeps saying that Deathskulls have a lot of mortal output. I don't really see it at all. But yeah, in theory, this list has a couple of sources of mortal wounds. There's the Megaboss. When he charges on a 2-up, does D3. Each of the commando squads has a bomb squig, so if they don't advance on a 3-up, they can do D3. Each of the Tankbustas squads has a bomb squig, so same. I don't know. After playing, I think I've played like 5 or 6 games with orcs in the last month or so. Each of them having bomb squigs. I'm not that impressed with the mortals. But maybe I've just low rolled it a couple times. But it's I'm in theory trying to do a couple of mortal wounds to you here because I'm assuming the bikers are just dead. I don't really need to hit them with any extra damage other than the charges I'm going to put into them this turn. So I'm mostly just going to hold on to my bomb squigs for next turn when hopefully I can start throwing them at you because Ymyr doesn't have any mortal wound defense. So if I can
actually, most Votann don't. Only Trans-Hyperion Alliance does.
Yeah. So I mean, if I can throw some of these in theory, anti-vehicle mortal wounds into your vehicles, then and characters also, then maybe it'll be impactful.
That's what I was really worried about with the truck boys here, was if they had managed to charge. No, let me get an arrow. If they had managed to charge the Hecaton here, in addition to like, I don't know, 4 or 5 bomb squigs being thrown at him, there's a very real chance you just remove that from the board.
Yeah, well, the unfortunate reality is that there's not going to be any bomb squigs that are going to get close to that guy this turn, because you can't advance and shoot them.
Yep, and it's because the unit has to be eligible to shoot
when
that happens? Okay. So how does that work if, like, say, all orcs have sluggas, right?
Yep, so they can throw the bomb squig if they're engaged in combat.
Yep, because they're all eligible to shoot since they have pistols.
Yep.
Very cool. And that is why you opted for no ARD cases on your wagons as well, right? You made them open-topped?
Yeah, that's part of the reason. Also, just so that you can shoot out. I mean, paying 15 points for T8 is nice, but if there's also a downside to paying those 15 points, then like I'm just gonna go with shooting the rockets out of the top of the wagons. And actually, the shooting out of the wagons is kind of cool. It did a fair amount of work this game, helping to pick up squads of Hearthkin. The rockets in particular are pretty cool, coming in at strength 8 and you know, with a lot of AP2 and their blasts as well. So in your bigger squads, they just like get max shots.
They also get +1 hit against vehicles, so even if you move, as long as you're not shooting over a force, you're back to hitting on 5s.
Ooh, powerful.
Yeah, those weapons certainly should be DACA weapons and not heavy weapons.
They really should.
So here we have your first charge. You did call the wall this turn, which is why everything is lurching forward. Orcs still have that big burst of speed that is so scary. I think that like it just watching it again, it's kind of wild that you went from what is it?
Basically everything
here and here with most of your army, and now you're here, here, and here.
Yep.
Stormboyz have a very strong threat range, everyone. That's a squad of Stormboyz right there. That's a squad of Stormboyz right there. I think that squad came from here, though, actually, but still. And did you have any inside of wagons this game?
Of Stormboyz?
Yeah.
No, they were all... Stormboyz are great on WTC because they can go on their 32 mil bases. They can still fit on the upper floors of solid Ls, which have 3 floors. So they are very, very efficient for packing in those buildings and like keeping everything safe. So
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, these 3-story Ls, we do have the windows punched out, but they're actually all filled in on WTC. So like these top 2 stories, like what Lukas is saying, are just kind of like rife, like the right area to put your 40 millimeter or less infantry, especially fly infantry.
Yep.
I think there's a rule you can't have like bigger than 50s on there or something.
Yeah, it's if your base overhangs the edge, it's not allowed to. Basically, there's no if it fits, it sits at all. So like your base has to actually land fully on ledge. Otherwise, you can't be there.
I think they even call that a base size because I tried putting like destroyers on there and they're like, oh, 60s are too big. And I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah, it might just because it overhangs. I know Scarabs love that though. But we're talking about Votann right now.
So yeah,
Crumping me in the middle here.
Unfortunately, my first combat in those Hearthkin didn't go super well. I had to CP reroll my Warpath cast and it fucking failed again. Classic Weirdboy, not doing anything. And so those boys managed to only kill like 5 Hearthkin or something like that. So unfortunately, coming up a little bit short. And because of the stickiness of the funny med pack, that means that those warriors are going to be there for the rest of the game, basically.
Yeah, the Hearthkin are deceptively tanky because, I mean, they have a 5 invuln in Ymyr. So as soon as you hit them, I mean, if you hit them with AP2, it'd still be a 5-up outside of Ymyr. But as soon as you try to hit them with like AP3 or anything, now they still get an invuln against that.
Yeah, the crazy thing is it's only AP2 that actually like is efficient against them. If you hit them with AP3 or more, the invuln is getting value, and if you hit them with AP1 or 0, then either AOC kicks in or Lamau, you're AP0. Like, you're not doing anything.
Well, no longer AOC, since that rule, might not be long for this world. But I guess we're going to have to be calling it Void Armor from now on. But yeah, the med pack as well, being Marcus Inch. I even like playing into CSM, there's a couple times Marcus Inch, I'm like, oh, yeah, like you blocked the first save. And the Thane has 2 wounds with a 4-up invuln, which sometimes that dude just spikes his 4-up and he tanks like 5 attacks, which he shouldn't have. So I'm a big fan of the Hearthkin. I was worried that they were going to feel like attacks, and they feel like a strong part of the army. So I'm a fan of them,
which is cool.
Yeah, they don't feel broken, but they also don't feel like Necron troops where you feel terrible for playing them.
Yep.
So this went well for you though. Over here, as you can see, my bikes are gone. My other bikes are gone, and what was really nice was Mr. Big Boss was the one who finished them off, which got you another 2 points on biggest into best, correct?
Yeah, I think that's right. I don't really remember exactly, but either way, he ended up on that objective, so he's getting me a minimum of 2 points, which is cool.
Yep.
And yeah, killing those bikers was like the minimum I set out to do this turn, which was cool. I also tagged both your wagons, which is nice. The one on the bottom is also wrapped, so those 10 Zerkers I won't have to worry about for this next turn anyway.
Yep, that one is wrapped.
The one stretch goal I had was getting those Hearthkin in the upper left a little lower or finishing them off. Unfortunately, came up a little bit short, but not really anything I can do about that.
Yep. So currently, we're going into my turn 2, and I see that this guy here is basically forced to shoot. Well, this tank here is basically forced to shoot either these Stormboyz here or these, I believe, Kommandos here.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy down here is forced to shoot Stormboyz or Mandos. And we got the heroic Hearthkin coming out of the back lines. I'm basically planning on this character and these Hearthkin helping charge the Stormboyz, and this Hecaton concentrating most of its firepower here, and a little bit into the Stormboyz. Over here, I think these guys up top, these Hearthkin, have pistols, so they're going to shoot into combat. And then hopefully their shooting combined with this Hearthkin melee combined with this guy shooting into combat would be enough. I also got the Kahl right here to help in melee. Because of like how Judgment works, characters and like just the basic troops can do a deceptive amount of damage in all phases. Like when, hey, your guys got 1 or 2 judgment on you. Like a sixth of my hits or like a third of my hits just wound you. Very strong into orcs who are like a T5 5-up. So yeah, I think here I am debating about also how to knock you off of a 12, because currently you have this objective, which I'm not doing anything about. You have this objective, which I'm not doing anything about because you executed this wrap down here. So the only way I can knock you off a 12 is flipping this objective, which means I need to kill enough Kommandos and then charge them with my Hearthkin here that, basically they don't murder me. I was able also to get 5 Zerks out here, and they're primed for a charge into the Kommandos right there. They're also, as you can see, kind of going this way in case I kill enough Kommandos like in the shooting into combat that I don't need to send the Berserks in there, and they can go help out into the Stormboyz instead. So, as you can see, this army kind of operates like a tanky castle. It's a little spread. You don't want these right next to each other so that people can't just like tag both of them with one unit. But right here, I've kind of got this zone of control, like right in the middle, where all my guys can assist each other. So what are you thinking here? Is there anything that obviously you try to mitigate this by wrapping and tagging the wagons, yeah?
Yep. So yeah, I'm expecting to lose most of the things that I've thrown forward here. Definitely those Stormboyz that went to the upper left. As we can see, the wagon just beamed them absolutely off the table. And then the Kommandos in the middle, I also expect to lose them because of the 5 Berserkers you have inside that wagon. I imagine they'll come out and bop that squad pretty good. And then down below, I'm hoping to have at least one of those units still alive to some kind of capacity. One of the units that are in combat with your Hecaton, just so that I can add a little bit of extra damage into that Hecaton next turn. Ideally, what will happen is I'll charge that guy with the units that I still have inside the wagon and maybe the Megaboss as well. Because all that together should, in theory, be able to crack that wagon through mortals. Hello, Tyler's Popcorn. And then if I can still pull off a wrap on the wagon, it's going to be difficult for you to get all those berserkers out, and then I can get some extra value, you know. So I'm hoping at least some of those guys that are in combat with the wagon survive. But as you can see, we've already lost 5 Stormboyz and 4 Kommandos. So like it's not going amazingly.
And what I really, really don't want is, because your army has army-wide obsec on infantry, I really don't want these Stormboyz to survive, because if one survives and doesn't, like, you know, passes his morale, he can just walk on over here and steal this objective from me. Because my troops are in not a great situation right now. And I know you have those 10 guys in the sky, and I know that they could come down, like, back here or over here, but there's not a lot I can really do about that. I know I have Auspex on the tanks, but they're trapped in combat. I think I'd rather just say, like, okay, you can take my backfield. I'm just going to keep blasting forward and, like, hopefully take these objectives. And then we, like, flip DZs or something.
Yep.
I think right here comes the heroic character getting into combat with the troops. I suppose I could have done something like strung the troops back this way, but you still have 4 Stormboyz, so I'm kind of valuing as many attacks as possible over getting that objective back. Over here, we have the heroic Kahl. I think he was charging some Gretchen or something that were over here.
Yep.
And then right here, these guys failed their charge. They rolled like a double 1, the Hearth Cannon to the Kommandos, which is a little bit of a bummer because me getting onto that objective flips it. But I only had 1 CP at the time, and I needed the Zerk 1 CP reroll hits, because what I was really worried about is, like, Zerks go in, whiff, Lukas has the CP to interrupts into the Hearthkin, murders him with the Kommandos, and now all of a sudden he owns the objective because his Kommandos are obsec. I need to have more guys on there at the end of the day. And he doesn't just have Kommandos. I think he's got like a few Gretchen on there and stuff too.
Yeah, we can't see it that well, but what ends up happening in the middle is the Berserkers. They're a little bit inconsistent into things like Kommandos because, well, actually the toughness 5 doesn't matter because you're auto wounding and you're strength 10 for some reason. But the 5-up invul is really nice, and also hitting on 4s is prone to spiking. So I think what ends up happening is you only kill like 5 of them or something like that, and then I end up battering you back pretty good.
I think I killed like 5 or 6, and then like 1 fled or something.
Yeah, the invul really helps against, especially against quality, which there's a lot of in the meta right now. Votann brings a lot of quality. Tal brings a lot of quality. So just having, you know, a 5-up invul against your opponent's like reasonable AP, multi-damage attacks, just to like cut that down even further feels really good.
Hammer Zerks, they're very, very strong, but I found they have a problem clearing like 10-man units with an invul because you need, I mean, what if a third, like on average, a third of their saves pass? You need like every hit to go through and wound.
Yep.
Right. Because that's 5 saves, 10 die. So math says I don't actually clear you out there, which is a little bit of a bummer. But hey, gotta go for it sometimes, right?
So it looks like a couple more Stormboyz are going down. And overall, a reasonably successful turn, despite, I mean, I'm going to get a 12. But you did set out most of what you were looking to do, right? I guess my truckers are still alive, but they're inside a forest. They're not going to charge it.
They are, and you don't have the wall anymore. So these guys, in my opinion, are very much out of the game right here. I think what they could do is they could charge these Zerks like that are in here, but they'd have to roll something wild, like an 8 or something. I guess it's not that wild.
It was more. It was like a
9 or 10.
I think because they're in the forest, there would be an 8-inch charge, but because they're in the forest, it's more of a 10.
Oh yeah, because they couldn't get out of there in one movement, huh? Because they're pretty deep in there. Yeah. Oh, it's because my guys are in a forest. You're charging into a forest as well. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you're moving out of a forest and charging into a forest, so it's not good.
Yeah, I don't have funny moon boots that make me immune to rules.
I think that's just our slow stature, dude. We're slow to the ground. Gravity doesn't really affect us as much because we grew up in high gravity environments.
That's true. My bad.
We're used to moving through, I don't know, thick gravity. Anyways, yeah, that rule's super fun. I love ignoring all of these forests, of which there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. Yeah, so it looks like we're mopping up here. This is just kind of like, hey, who's the best idiot over here? As we got like Hearthkin and characters punching guys. Lukas is really making me utilize everything, which, that's kind of what we expected orcs to do. They put a lot of pressure. They put a lot of stuff in front of you. But yeah, I'd say this turn was relatively successful. I obviously didn't escape the wrap down here. And I think a Stormboy does live, and I didn't flip the 12, but I definitely killed enough. And going into your turn, I think it looks a little tough. So as we're wrapping up the combat here, what are you thinking for how you're trying to clap back?
Well, I can already tell that I'm losing the material war because all I've really killed is 6 bikers, and I'm down to like 2 wagons and 3 squads of Tankbustas. So really what I'm trying to do is just milk every point out of this that I can. That is going to be getting a bunch of Grudge out, getting as many good bits as I can. Because of how haggard that mid-board combat was, I did end up with like a couple Gretchen left outside. I think it was 1 Grot outside of combat. So that Chad is going to just walk away from the tank. He's not in combat with it anymore, but he's going to walk away from it. He's going to flip it off, and he's going to collect them good bits. For 3 points, baby. Let's go. And then, yeah, I'm just going to try to kill the couple berserkers you have in the middle. I think your tank now at this point is a little bit wounded. I can see a D20 right by it, so I think it is scratched up a little bit. So hopefully the Tankbustas that I have inside the tank, plus a Tankbusta bomb from these Kommandos, will be able to finish that thing off. Dropping a big old pile of mortal wounds on that thing seems pretty good.
Yeah, I think you managed to get a few wounds through with the power claw, which was pretty nice. And I mean, even just like throwing a bunch of, 2-ups at me, I failed a few of them. I think he's at like 8 right now or something.
Yeah, he's a bit
might be higher. He's got the guy right here who just healed him for 4. So
and then here we've got the silver wagon up top who's going to come forward, and because the wagon is open topped, the unit inside is eligible to make shooting attacks, so they can throw their bomb squig.
Yep.
Unfortunately, the bomb squig is a little bit prone to not doing anything because it needs to hit on a 3. So there are times when it will just not do anything. But having an open-topped wagon with bomb squigs inside is a really cute way to, get up close to your opponent and blow up their support characters, especially if they have a low number of wounds. So if you're ever playing against orcs and your opponent has a lot of bomb squigs, be mindful of where your characters are because they can get blown up for sure.
Well, and I think that's what you just realized right here is because you can't see it, but kind of like a little bit behind this wheel, this blue circle is a little bit back, actually. My Kahl is right there. Yeah, you just measured to him. And now you're realizing, okay, if I throw some bomb squigs from, this wagon, and I think you had a bomb squig here. You might have had one, I think, here in the middle from this squad.
Yeah.
You were like, I'm going to throw 3 bomb squigs at this character and just try to kill him. And also charge the wagon at him with ramming speed, which does D3 mortals on a 2-up when you charge. Yep. Because I think you were realizing that a long list was giving me a lot of judgment. And you were just like, if I can get rid of that, that would definitely hurt Nick's output next turn.
Yep. So yeah, here come my Stormboyz. Like Nick said, his backfield is pretty open, so I'm going to go for a good old-fashioned 9-inch charge. And try to take out his Forge Master and flip that objective, which would be pretty cool.
We were definitely playing with the Beam FAQ. Yeah, so we were playing with the Beam FAQ. The Beam FAQ isn't that well explained by Games Workshop. It just kind of says, yes, you make wound rolls against your guys in the same manner as an enemy, but it doesn't explain in which situations you do. I believe what they meant was like, if your model was an enemy model, would you be eligible to shoot it, right? Like, you can't shoot it in combat. You can't shoot it if it's Lukas. You can't shoot it if you can't see it, right? WTC straight up just went ahead and said that. They were like, yeah, it just follows the same eligibility restrictions as enemies. So in this situation, I believe Lukas did deploy within 12 of the tank, but I'm definitely not going to Auspex because I'm going to be hitting my own guys if I Auspex because they are beam weapons.
I think they're also still, the wagon was still in combat, right?
It might have still been in combat, the Kommandos, something like that. But yeah, that is something to keep in mind with their positioning. I know early in the game, I put the bikes here and then was like, wait a minute, they need to be a little bit more this way so I don't just beam through them. I've been playing with it. It's really easy to play around. Just watch out where your models are, and talk it through with your opponent beforehand. I mean, they'll appreciate you talking through the beams beforehand before you move your model anyways, and you'll appreciate doing it for your own models as well. It definitely solves a lot of those, you're not in the beam, arguments, if you guys just pre-measure and like talk it out. So you should play by intent at all times. So trying to think what's going on here. Is this just like, I think this is the bomb squig. Yeah, bomb squig time.
Yep.
Which how'd they work out?
Well, so bomb squigs hit vehicles on 2s, but unfortunately the reality of the situation is I'm probably never going to kill that middle land fort. Just because of how tanky it is, and it's still at full wounds. I don't really have anything in the middle that can realistically kill it. So I've kind of just abandoned that and decided that I'd go for the 3-ups instead on your Berserker / Kahl. And I think all 3 of those bomb squigs missed, unfortunately. Or I think one of them, and I think I missed the first 2 into the character and then just decided if I'm not going to kill the character, I'll try to go for your Berserkers, and then did like 1 mortal to a Berserker or something. So a bit of a whiff there.
Yeah, I think you did too, and I made it feel no pain. However, what was very big is that impossible charge we talked about with the truck boys landed. I think you rolled like an 11.
They did get an 11, which was funny.
They hurled on into the Zerkers, and so those guys are off to the ancestors. Down here, you're constructing like a little barricade for yourself. All right, you got some Gretchen doing good bits. You got your character being the biggest and the best. You opted not to send the character in to start punching this tank, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And was that because you value the points down here more than like actually trying to kill this thing?
I think so. Yeah, I was thinking that you probably would be able to get the Berserkers out of that wagon. Yeah. Based on just how many models I had left, I didn't really have enough models to fully wrap it. So I figured between the Berserkers getting out and then you beaming a path for them, they'd be able to then go in and kill my character, which means no more biggest and the best points. So I figured I could get 2 to 4 more points if I played passively with that guy. Plus, there's already a very good chance that the assets that I have in combat with that tank can just kill it anyway.
Yep.
So unfortunately, I end up coming up a little bit short and getting it down to 1 wound, which means it's not going to die for the rest of the game. And more importantly, the Berserkers will be able to... Do they get out this turn?
I think they can get out.
I think so, because, yeah, my Stormboyz there are going to die.
Well, it's because, yeah, this character here, I think he heroicked into the Stormboyz.
Yep.
So he's about to hit them with the old grav hammer. This down here as well, this Stormboy charge sadly did not work out. I mean, that was 100% the correct play. Flipping primary there is very strong. But the thing about this now is now I have 10 Stormboyz in the backfield I actually have to kill, and they still have a, 6-up invuln?
Mm-hmm.
And as you can see, this tank is still charged by this tank. I mean, this tank is still tagged, and I think you end up tagging this tank as well. So the only thing that can actually shoot these Stormboyz is like these 10 Hearthkin and these 5 Hearthkin and like these characters. So it's a little bit sketchy because if even one lives, Lukas has the CP to auto pass, and then that guy can just walk onto the objective, take it, and plant a bomb, which is a big point swing. I know this is like a play style you're not very used to. This feels a lot scrappier than what you're used to playing. Would you agree?
For sure, yeah. I mean, especially, I think the biggest thing is just having a small number of models is still really impactful. Because, you know, the 2 or 3 man Goth squads don't really matter once they get really low. But having 2 or 3 Deathskulls walking around to, like, be OPSEC and flip objectives and, you know, getting the max value out of the rerolled hit or wound with the claw, the last couple of guys left, still a lot of value. So yeah, having the needing to finish off the entire squad is a big deal.
Yep.
And that leads to very much tighter games, and that's part of the reason why Deathskulls MSU is the way to go if you're going to be playing blue.
Yep. Well, that's something that, I mean, Tyler was here. We were hanging out at his house. That's what you and Tyler and I are very familiar with that play style. We play armies with a lot of OBSEC guys that, like, you know, limp around on, like, you know, 1 or 2 guys left. So I think we were trying to, like, point out situations where, like, hey, this, like, play can do this and, like, flip the point here and that sort of thing. And I know you're not unfamiliar with that. Like you definitely did that when you played 120 boys and your mech guns, yeah.
Yep.
Like flip people's primary. But orcs very much in 9th edition are either like go all Deathskulls, kind of this like trash style of play, or you go all Goths and like rush your opponent down, yeah.
Yeah. This is I now that I've seen it happen, I definitely vibe with the list that has the smaller squads. I feel like a lot of the extra Deathskulls bodies are just points that aren't really doing anything. You know, having 3x5 Stormboyz and 3x5 Kommandos is just fine, honestly. If all you're going to be doing is standing in the corners of the board and getting green tide and good bits and stuff like that, having more units is probably better. Because, like, imagine if I had... Well, I mean, I probably wouldn't have been able to wrap your wagon if I'd only had 10 guys there. But, like, only allowing you to shoot at 5 or 10 guys instead of allowing you to shoot at 20 and get, like, huge value out of blowing up my whole army. Definitely a lot better.
So we're heading into my turn 3.
Yep.
And I get an 8 because this charge failed, sadly. I believe this guy wasn't actually tagged. I think you might not have enough movement to get there.
No, my wagon went for a 6-inch charge and failed it.
That's what it was.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so this guy
tagging the trains with wagons is not bad because you won't get the extra beam hits, and I'll ramshackle your 2 damage down to 1.
Yep.
So there's a really good chance we just like sit there for a whole round, which is pretty cool.
Yep. So this guy is free to shoot here. That is why he's touching the force, so he doesn't take the -1 to hit penalty. In the middle here, Lukas's Nobz did kill quite a bit, but I think that the Zerks rolled pretty hot on their fight on death and managed to take a big chunk of your guys with them. But we've got what? We've got the heroic Kahl facing off against the cowardly Grot. And then down here, people can see that, yes, the Zerk squads are getting out and they are freeing their wagon from getting bad touch for so long. And I think what you got in combat here is you've got a squad of Tankbustas, which is why you actually did so much damage because of the tank hammer. You have a single Stormboy, and you have a small squad of Kommandos left that these Zerks are going to try to clear all 3 of, which I'm pretty sure they'll be able to with this guy's shooting as well.
Mm-hmm.
Tank hammers. What does a tank hammer do for those unfamiliar?
It is it's the same point cost as a rocket launcher, and what it does is if it makes 1 melee attack, and if the attack hits, then the target unit suffers D6 mortal wounds, and the bearer of the weapon is slain. So Tankbustas get +1 to hit against just vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
So against a tank, he is a cool dude who runs in, hits on a 2, has a reroll because of Deathskulls, and then does D6 mortals. This is a really good weapon. It's especially good because it's free. I don't think you would really take it if it wasn't free, but it is pretty funny to just have these dudes run in and just every once in a while slam donkey something for 5 mortals or whatnot. Yep. It also, the tank hammer, for whatever reason, doesn't need to be used. It can be used against non-tanks. Mm-hmm. So you can use it against infantry squads, which is hilarious. You can use it against characters, which is even more hilarious. Lots of funny stuff you can do with tank hammers. So basically every Deathskulls list I see has at least 2 to 3 squads of 5 Tankbustas with 1 hammer and 1 squig in every squad, which is cool.
Super good. I mean, that's what almost killed this guy down here. I think you did 5 mortals to me or something. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's spooky. Here we got the Remnant Stormboyz. I don't actually think I have any more shots into them. It's kind of like what we said happened. And in the middle is being taken over. The boys are dying. I think there's like a commando or 2 left, and these troops are just going to probably go in and charge it and flip the objective. We got the heroes up here who have been regenerating every turn that I have an extra CP because of the med pack stratagem. So it looks like I'm locking down my sides, but you still got this objective very locked down. Obviously, your home objective very locked down, and these Zerks here aren't going there this turn. They gotta extricate the wagon so that I can hopefully get this on turn 4. So I think you're doing a really good job of slowing me down. You're definitely farming your points as much as you can.
Yeah, that's the whole idea. once turn 2 happened and I kind of didn't accomplish what I needed to there, I knew that it was going to be a losing game and one where I just needed to get as many points as I could. So that means definitely stalling you out on the bottom right side of the map. And then, yeah.
Yeah, I also think at this point, this is my turn 3. This is when I started trying to do Warp Ritual. My Grimnyr did not really want to do this secondary, though. He rolled a double 1s, which I CP re-rolled, because I'm like, I need to start this turn 3, or else I'm not going to get a 12 on it. And I think he re-rolled into a 4, which you promptly denied with your Weirdboy. And I'm like, okay, well, at least I can get a 7 on Warp Ritual. So that was a little bit of a bummer. I needed to lock down the middle a turn earlier, probably, or maybe try to kill your Weirdboy.
Yeah, I was honestly surprised you didn't go for the teleport, try to kill the Weirdboy play. I mean, he's not really doing anything for me other than casting the denying Warp Ritual.
Yeah.
But in theory, that seems like a good task for your call.
Yep.
But I get that he was being useful in the middle as well. Like, if he had killed those Gretchen, that would have been big, because that's like 3 less points on big good bits.
Yep. And that's what he does that I'm accomplishing this turn. As we can see, the Kahl has come in with his friends, and now the Kahl, the Grimnyr, and the Hearthkin get to live in the middle. The Wagon here opted to charge the battle wagon, so you can't like do any charges with it anymore. And I think the Wagon was like on half health now, so I felt pretty confident that in my following shooting phase, I could shoot myself out of combat. I also know you have 5 Tankbustas in there, and I wanted to force them to basically disembark this way as much as possible. But I think that you managed to still get them over here, which is what I was worried about. Because this is a ruin, so you just like sacrifice a little bit of movement, and you're like, okay, it's a slightly longer charge now. So we're heading into your turn 3. This annoying little rat here has stolen my objective and planted a bomb. Here we go. Rat Stormboy. So that's a 7-point swing right there, because I think you used your auto pass, which was the correct play. The Zerks did manage to clear out, and they are threatening charges now this way. And that is why Lukas has built a wall of Gretchen to try to protect his big boss over here. And the main assets you got left is you've got these wagons. I don't think Red Wagon has anything in it.
It's got 5 Lootas in it.
It's got 5 Lootas in it. Oh, yeah. Those guys were actually pretty good into the Hearthkin. Because they're DACA weapons. They don't take the -1 to hit. And they are at 48-inch range, so when they're within 24, they get 3 shots each.
That's right.
And they also got that custom Megaboss. So they got a spanner in there who shoots D3 shots at like 4d6 or something.
3d6, yep.
Yep. But if my man's rolls a 1, he instantly kills
He
himself.
dies. That's it. You got that Deathskulls reroll, baby. Value.
Yeah, the orcs always overcharge their plasma guns, as everyone should.
Yep.
So there's no choice. You don't get to be a coward. We got in the middle here, I think. What was this that was trying to flip the objective? Was this your last squad of Kommandos?
That is, I had that silver one, because I had 3 squads of Tankbustas in this list. 1 squad went up top to try to kill the Hearthkin, and then 1 squad went in the middle. This was kind of a gambit by me to try to bite off, more than I could chew in 2 places. But I figure if they both go my way, then it's like a bunch of big point swings. Because both these squads of Tankbustas have a hammer. So like if they both connect and do a lot of mortals, then like all of a sudden both of those objectives flip in my favor. Which would be pretty cool.
If you flip both of them, that puts me on a 0.
Yeah.
So like
the safer play would definitely be to have all of the Hearthkin go up to the upper left objective and just make sure that squad of 6 Hearthkin is completely gone.
Up here? Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
This is one of those kind of like, assuming from a team's perspective here, like playing behind. This, this isn't like a super unsafe play to split it, and like it's a huge swing if it does work.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, I agree. Definitely 2 Tankbusta squads would have accomplished this job up here.
Yep.
Whereas 2 in the middle is a little sketch because there's still 10 guys in there and the Kahl. Here we got the battle wagon charging the Kahl. More to get another guy on the objective, correct? Because you don't have def rollers in this list.
Correct. Yeah, the Def Rolla is something that I swore by when I played Goths, and it is very good with Goths because you can do a lot of damage with it. But in a more points-centric defensive orcs list like Deathskulls, it's actually better to not buy the Rolla because it extends the length of your model by like 1.5 inches, 2 inches at least. So it is much easier to hide a battle wagon without a Rolla than it is to hide a battle wagon with. So in this list, I have not taken them.
Yep.
We can see a little bit of damage here happening from the tank hammers. But overall, nothing too dramatic. It's a couple of Harskin here and there.
Yep. Here we got Tyler's big head blocking most of the shot. It's okay, because mine does that usually. I think that you sadly were not able to flip this objective up here because you whiffed on the tank hammer.
Yep. And
down here, I need to check the score sheet. You might have been able to flip that one. I think you actually did. You didn't wipe out the squad in the middle, but since your guys are OBSEC, you did the whole charge the Kahl trick, but then like get closer to the Hearthkin and get away from him so he couldn't punch you back. Yep. And the Hearthkin don't really punch that well in melee, especially because those Tankbustas have no judgment on them yet. So I think you ended up contesting that objective in the middle, which puts me on a 4 going into turn 4.
Question for you: when a unit destroys an enemy unit, when a unit destroys a Votann unit and gets a judgment token, does that arrive immediately or at the end of the phase?
I believe it arrives immediately.
Gotcha.
Yeah. It, however, does not arrive if you're in a transport because you're not on the board and can't be affected by abilities. So if you shoot me out of an open top transport and kill me, I can't give you judgment because you're not there.
Oh, that's very goofy. I did not realize that.
Yeah, it didn't come up in our game, but like a lot of Harlequin players I know have been like noticing that. They're like, wait, do I get judgment if I like shoot fusion pistols at your face? I'm like, no, you're not there to judge. You don't exist. Like, you also can't benefit from stratagems instead of transports, so it goes both ways.
Yeah, or auras or anything like that.
Yep, which actually, I know this is comes up quite a bit in our Harlequins versus CK game because I can't be affected by Dread instead of a transport. But hey, that faction's dead anyway, so it doesn't matter. Here we have my turn 4. Lukas has done a good job denying, putting me on a 4. My character is having to turn around and be heroic once again and kill a Stormboy. And we've got some Berserks that are getting ready to charge these Stormboyz. This squad is getting ready to charge this Battle Wagon if necessary. There's like remnant Tankbusta squads up here that are going to be not super hard to clear out, and then this squad down here, I got the Kahl and I got all the Hearthkin, so I'm not too worried about this. I also got the Grimnyr, whose job is to cast Warp Ritual this turn. I think we're realizing here too that you left this guy at a lookout, sir. I mean, honestly, we should have taken this back. That was my apologies, but we've been playing for a while, and you were just kind of like, it's the mistake I made, so just shoot him. I'm like, okay. I know it was getting pretty late on our end, and we were just kind of like, let's see how the rest of this goes.
Yep. So yeah, unfortunately, the reality of this turn is I'm basically going to lose everything except for the Gretchen in my very backfield. So yeah, it's more or less going to be game over after this, and it's a matter of cleaning up and making sure all the points are tied up.
Yep.
Most Tankbustas obviously are going to die. You're going to, because you're not OBSEC, defuse that bomb in the lower left on a 4+ next turn, because this is only turn 4.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're more or less at the game's end. There's a couple wagons you're going to be taking care of over the next turn or two. But overall, not a lot of impact I'm going to be making on the board. So yeah, it is going to end up being a Votann victory after the next couple minutes of cleanup.
Yeah. And I got the final score right here.
Yeah, why don't you run us through the secondaries, because I feel like that was like what was going to decide this game. I feel like for the most part we are going to be swinging back and forth with like 4s and 8s and stuff on primary. But how well can I score my green Necron secondaries?
Yeah. So the final score is Votann favor, 69-50. So not like a huge stomp. I ended up getting a 36 up top on primary, going like 8-8-4, and then a 12 at the end with one bomb going off. I got a 15 on no prisoners, kind of as we expected. Orf Ritual, my guy does it again on turn 4, where he's like, I'm gonna roll double ones into a 4, and then you denied it. And I'm like, all right, I guess I get a 3 at the end of the game. So that was not a good secondary. We're trying to figure that one out. So lay claim, I do end up getting a 15, as you see here. As the game is wrapping up, I'm standing on my lay claim objective markers. But on Lukas' side, primary wise, you got a 28 with a 12-8-4-4. Very reasonable that you can get like early 8s though, and like threaten early 12s. You were definitely threatening them for like the first 2 turns.
Yep.
Biggest into best, I think you only ended up getting a 6 on. So I guess like I didn't end up dealing the killing blow in the bottom. I think actually you eviscerated the bikes with the Power Claw guys. So
yeah, I mean that's what I expected to happen. Because of the way pylons were working there, it was just not reliable to start with the other guy.
Yeah,
because he needed to end up on the objective.
So that guy just sat on a midfield objective for 3 turns, and then he died in my turn 4. So that's why you got a 6. Get to good bits, you got an 8. Turn 2, you did it in 2 places, and turn 3, you did it in that bottom place before those Gretchen died. And Green Tide, you ended up getting an 8 on. Because 10 models in quadrants.
Yeah. I think what I'm realizing is there's a lot of tempo issues with this list. Into something like Votann or Tau that can just put the pressure on you immediately and start shooting your army to death. Especially because Tau has a lot more quality shots these days. Like your Votann list has, between the 2 squads of bikers and all the Hearthkin and the beams on the wagons, you can clear through like toughness 5 infantry super quickly, whereas Tau might have a little bit more of a problem dealing with big blobs of orcs. But yeah, it was like the 8 on Green Tide and the 8 on Good Bits is just a function of the fact that you basically threatened every midfield objective from turn 1. So there wasn't really anything I could do to farm those for points safely. It was just like a scramble to get as many as I could. Yeah. So yeah, I think maybe I could have played a little bit more defensively and not throwing away my army so quickly. But yeah, some good learning. It was fun to play Deathskulls. What are your takeaways from this game?
I think similar to Necrons, you don't need to go first in every matchup, but you definitely value going first more because you're able to set up like defensive screens better, and you're also able to like get a turn of Green Tide, biggest into best, and good bits like uninterrupted. And then your opponent has to decide basically to kind of, if we go back to the like beginning of the game, they have to decide to lurch forward, right? And they have to do that turn, like their turn 1. Then they pass to you, and then you get another and uninterrupted turn of like your secondaries. So you get to rack up just like 10 free points before your opponent gets to do that much to you, which is a very big difference. It's also a lot easier for you to deny primary when your opponent like stands on objectives and your whole army's closer. Like you can wall, and you could even like threaten like home objectives and stuff with like getting an offset guy on there. And like at the end of the game, like your opponent definitely gets a 12 if you go first, right? Because they're definitely tabling you before the end of their turn 5. Yep. But like you can probably keep them to a lot more 4s. But yeah, I think it's a good archetype. I think that Goths, like looking at Orcs versus Votann, I actually think Goths are scarier because Goths aren't that much hordes at accomplishing the Orc secondaries, and they also do a ton more damage.
Yes.
So those issues of like the Stormboyz bouncing here, I don't think that's going to happen in Goths because you're going to be like strength 6. You're going to be like 6s explode. You might actually kill wagons. You obviously don't get to do cute plays like this, where like one Stormboy is like, I'm going to steal the objective and plant a bomb. But like you don't need to do that. You can just let me like live back here, and you get to control, everything.
I just play for the upper left and lower right a lot more. Right. Yeah. Whereas in this game, as soon as my gambit for the upper left failed because the Stormboyz just didn't do anything, I had to abandon that objective for basically the rest of the game. So yeah, I think Goths can definitely pressure that objective a lot harder.
I've played into Goths once with Votann, and it was someone who was not as skilled as you are. And I mean, a few like long bomb charges, and all of a sudden he was in my lines, and that game was a lot scarier than it had any right to be. So someone who's able to plan out where like their stuff's going to be, and like, you know, wrap and tag and play the secondary as well, I'm genuinely worried about it. I think that's a good, like a genuine game right there.
Yeah, dude.
So,
We'll have to try it out sometime.
Definitely. All right.
All right. Well, we just hit exactly the hour mark, so I think now is a good time to bid y'all a fine adieu. I hope you guys enjoyed this game of Deathskulls versus Ymyr.
Yeah.
It was certainly a lot of fun playing it, and we've got some more BITREPs coming to y'all in the new year, so make sure to stay tuned. If you like this kind of content, be sure to like and subscribe, all the good things on YouTube. Let us know your comments down in the comment section below. And if you've played Orcs or Votann, especially this matchup, let us know your thoughts. We're always happy to learn new things about the matchup, and we're always looking for y'all's input and that kind of thing. So yeah, thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
Anything last items to say, Nick, or should we sign off?
I think that's it. You said the things. Check
All
us
right.
out in Discord if you want to ask us any personal questions.
True. All right.
All right.
Adios, amigos.
Have a good one, everyone.